Hey guys, Trainer DC here, coming at you with another video. A while back, we had a leak for Pokemon Winds and Waves that detailed a scrap Pokemon from over 20 years ago finally making its appearance in the Pokemon world in Winds and Waves. I'll leave a card above to that video if you haven't seen it yet. But given that Pokemon Winds and Waves is going to have a plethora of new Pokemon in it, over 300, card above if you don't know what I'm talking about there, I thought it'd be fun to take a look at some old scrap Pokemon designs from each generation, as number one, it's cool to see scrap Pokemon, and number two, there's a possibility these might make their way into Pokemon Winds and Waves. So today in this video, I wanted to start out with Generation 6 Pokemon X and Y, as quite frankly, these are probably my favorite scrap Pokemon, and really some of them bother me for not being actual Pokemon because they should be, because the designs are phenomenal. Before we get into this though, if you don't know, this is all coming from the Tera leak that happened a few years back, and I am using Pokéos to help compile this information, as they've done a great job getting everything together all in one place. So without further ado, let's get into this. So our first Pokemon, our first scrap Pokemon, I should say, for X and Y is this water creature here. It's like a water shark landmine type Pokemon. This one seems rather cool to me, and I am a little bit disappointed we didn't get it in X and Y. It's not one of the ones that I'm like, oh man, how could you not have this in the game? But I feel like this would have been a cool Pokemon, and I feel like honestly this would fit Winds and Waves rather well if you have this being like a landmine type Pokemon that you see it on the surface of the water, and if you hit it, it's going to attack you and you enter a Pokemon battle. I think that would fit the region rather well, so this is one that I definitely think is plausible to actually appear in Winds and Waves. Next up, we have a Cassowary Pokemon, and some of the text here is in Japanese for it. It's a fire dark type from what we can gather here. Obviously, there's two stages. There's the first stage with a little bird with a little skull on its face, and the bigger second stage, which is a Cassowary. This one, I don't understand why it got scrapped. It seems like a really cool Pokemon, and quite frankly would have made for a great fossil line. It's something that I wouldn't mind seeing in the future, but in all honesty, I don't think it's going to appear in Winds and Waves or anytime soon, because we're getting Brout's final evolution in the form of a Cassowary. I doubt they're going to have another Cassowary Pokemon to go alongside that in this game, but nevertheless, this is a cool design that I'm not really sure why it got scrapped back in X and Y. Next up is one of the first lines that I'm scratching my head at here as to why this didn't appear in X and Y. We have this Chameleon line, which I think looks really cool. It has this base baby Chameleon that evolves into a larger Chameleon, and it really does look alien-like to me. This is a Pokemon that I think would actually fit the tropical environments, the tropical region of Winds and Waves rather well, so who knows, maybe this is a Pokemon that gets revisited here, but this is one of the ones that I'm definitely disappointed at not getting in Pokemon X and Y. Like, this design's really solid. I don't know why they scrapped it. Next up, we have a flamingo Pokemon that got scrapped here in X and Y. This one has been revisited, or at least the idea of a flamingo Pokemon has been revisited, because in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, we got Flamigo, and you can see a comparison of Flamigo to this Pokemon here on screen. Personally, I don't love this Pokemon here. Like, it's a flamingo who has high heels on and seems to be a dancer. Like, I don't think Flamigo's all that cool either, but this one here I'm okay with not having happen. Like, if it was a Pokemon, I wouldn't bat an eye, but it's not one of the scrapped ones that I'm like, oh, I really wish this was a real thing. Like, I'm okay that this one got scrapped. However, this next one here is very upsetting to me. This next one here is a sea urchin type Pokemon that's a two-stage line. We have the baby stage, which kind of looks like a little turtle, but not a turtle, and then we have the second stage here, which really is where I'm upset with. This second stage might honestly be one of the coolest designs I've seen in all of Pokemon. Like, this might have been my favorite Generation 6 Pokemon if this Pokemon had appeared in Generation 6. Like, right now, my favorite Gen 6 Mon is Greninja. This might have taken the cake, though. Like, I don't understand why this design got scrapped. It is so cool, and I really hope they do revisit it at some point. I hope this is a Pokemon that gets revisited in Winds and Waves, because I absolutely love its design, and it would automatically be possibly my favorite for Generation 10. As for the first stage here, I'm not in love with the first stage. It's kind of bland and basic looking to me, but at the same time, it's a first stage Pokemon. You know, most people are more so caring about what it evolves into, and its evolution here is absolutely sick, and this is the one that I stare at and think about all the time, saying, why is this thing not a Pokemon? This thing is so cool. Next up, we have a peanut Pokemon, which when I first saw this 2 years ago when this leak leak first came out, I was like, oh, we're gonna do a peanut Pokemon, but at the same time, it's pretty endearing. Like, I do like it. This one clearly didn't get as far along in development as the others did because it's just a little sketch of it. It's not actually a character sheet like we had for the others, but this little peanut Pokemon evolves into a peanut dinosaur looking thing. I will say this peanut dinosaur looking thing is a bit goofy looking. I'm not in love with it personally. Like, I really like the base peanut form. I'm not in love with the evolution. It does have a strikingly similar resemblance to Breloom, so maybe that's why this Pokemon was canceled, because it is too similar to Breloom. But I'm gonna sit here and say that, you know what, this could very easily be a convergent species for Breloom. Like, this would work really well actually, because you have Shroomish, right, as the first stage for Breloom, and you could say this peanut Pokemon doesn't really resemble Shroomish all that much. I'll give you that. But then you have this peanut Pokemon, which really does look like Breloom. And again, I think this would fit convergent species rather well. You have Tentacruel to Toedscruel. You have Diglett to Wiglet. You have Poltergeist to Sinistine. Oh, that whole thing going on there. I think this would work rather well for Breloom. I think this would be a rather cool convergent species for Breloom. So maybe they do revisit it at some point, but I would have to say out of all of these, I think this is probably one of the less likely Pokemon to get revisited. Next up, we have a line that technically wasn't scrapped, and this is our last line for the day. This wasn't technically scrapped, but this version of this line was scrapped. So this is the Flabébé, Floette to Florges line. First up here, we have Flabébé here, who you can see looks a lot more fairy-like, and I don't think it looks like a flower as much. Personally, I really like its design here and the evolution of it from Flabébé to Floette. Floette here looks kind of alien-like, and I actually like its design a lot. It looks really cool, and I don't really necessarily, well, I see the fairy typing. I was gonna say I don't necessarily see the fairy typing. I could see it being a psychic type as well, but maybe this would be a fairy psychic line instead of a pure fairy type line like we saw with the actual Floette line. Here we have Florges here, which again, very different from the actual Florges that we got. Florges's line is not my favorite line, to be honest. Like, I like Flabébé, I like Floette. I'm not in love with Florges, and quite frankly, I actually like this line a lot for it. You can see on here that there's the evolutionary tree for it. You go from Flabébé to Floette to Florges, but there's actually two different Florgeses here. There's a female and a male variant, which seems really interesting. The male variant looks a lot more like a Kingdra seahorse type Pokemon. So it's interesting that this line was scrapped, and I would argue that this is different enough from Flabébé's line, from Flabébé, Floette, and Florges respectively, to actually become a Pokemon line in a future game. Like, if you put these side by side with the Flabébé, Floette, and Florges that we got, I don't think anyone would know that these were initially supposed to be their original designs. Like, they are drastically different here, and I think these would work in a new Pokemon game. Although, given that they were scrapped and given that they reworked that line completely, I think it's something we're probably never going to see. But at the same time, I think it is really cool, and I wouldn't mind seeing it in a future Pokemon game like Winds and Waves. I was about to sign off on this video, and I realized I missed a couple of Pokemon here. One canceled Pokemon and a few beta designs that we have. So first and foremost, we have a fourth mythical Pokemon for Generation 6 titled Tetu. Tetu was going to be a steel electric type, and there's really nothing else known about it. In addition to that, we have some other beta Pokemon that appeared in this leak, like Beta Tyrant, which is very similar to actual Tyrant, just a different coloration, and the eye is more detailed on actual Tyrant. Klefki got the same treatment, same general design, just the face is different. I think the actual Klefki and the actual Tyrant both look better here. Then we have Furfrou, which I'll throw all these up on screen. I don't have a ton to say about this one, but it's a fluffier Furfrou basically. I'm fine with the one we got. I think that's a good design. You could even make this a variant if you want a Furfrou where its hair grows longer. I don't think anyone will be complaining about that. And the last one here, which is probably the more interesting one out of all these outside of Tetu, these scrapped mythical Pokemon, is Noibat was originally supposed to be Flabébé, in that Flabébé, how there's all these different versions of it, depending on where you catch it, the coloration changes based on the type of flower it is. Noibat was originally supposed to be that Pokemon. As we saw in the earlier parts of this video, Flabébé looked drastically different from the Flabébé that we got, and it didn't have the coloration changes like we got in the final version of the Pokemon. Because Noibat was originally supposed to be that Pokemon, depending on where you capture Noibat, it was going to have a different coloration, as you can see here. There's no image showcasing how this would have looked on Noivern, but we can presume it would have been the same thing as Flabébé to Florges, just different colorations, nothing more special than that. And obviously this was scrapped somewhat early on because there are no Noivern designs to go along with it, unless guess they exist, but they just weren't in this document for whatever reason. Anyways, that is all of these scrap Pokemon for Generation 6, all of the scrap Pokemon for X and Y. Let me know down in the comment section below what you think about all the designs that we went over here today. Are there any that stand out to you that you wish were in Pokemon X and Y, like the Chameleon line and the little sea urchin line stood out to me? If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to see more content like this from Trainer DC. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.